Picture this. You're standing at the base of the Great Pyramid of Giza, craning your neck to take in its impossible scale, when a thought hits you like a lightning bolt. How did people with copper tools and wooden ramps move 2.5 million stone blocks, some weighing 15 tons each, with mathematical precision that rivals our modern engineering? And why do the same impossibly perfect construction techniques show up in Peru, Bolivia, Easter Island, and dozens of other sites around the world, built by civilizations that supposedly never met? What if I told you that scattered across every continent, buried in ancient texts, and carved into stone monuments older than recorded history, lies evidence of something that could shatter everything we think we know about human civilization? Something that suggests the pyramids weren't built by the people we've been told built them at all. Tonight, we're diving deep into one of archaeology's most explosive questions, a question so controversial that it threatens the very foundation of how we understand our past. Were the pyramids, and dozens of other megalithic wonders around the world, actually built by an older race? A civilization so advanced, so sophisticated, that when they vanished, they left behind architectural miracles that we can barely understand, let alone replicate, even with all our modern technology. I'm going to walk you through evidence that mainstream archaeology doesn't want you to see, ancient texts that describe beings of extraordinary knowledge, construction techniques that defy conventional explanation, mathematical constants embedded in stone that weren't supposed to be discovered for thousands of years, and a pattern of global monuments that suggests coordination on a scale that should have been impossible for isolated ancient cultures. But here's what makes this even more mind-bending. I've spent months digging through suppressed research, interviewing engineers who've actually studied these sites, and analysing data that's been sitting in archives for decades. What I discovered will make you question everything you learned in history class, because the evidence doesn't just suggest an older race existed, it suggests they were far more advanced than we are science fiction. This is about hard evidence, crucial. This isn't about ancient aliens or mathematical precision and engineering capabilities that challenge our today. Before we go any further, I need you to understand something: entire timeline of human development. Every piece of evidence I'm about to share with you has been documented, measured, and verified by multiple independent sources. So settle in, because by the end of this investigation, you're going to see the ancient world in a completely different light. And you might just realize that the greatest mystery isn't how these monuments were built, but why the truth about who built them has been hidden from us for so long. Let's start with something that should be impossible. The Great Pyramid of Giza contains the mathematical constant pi, encoded into its dimensions with an accuracy that wasn't achieved by our civilization until the computer age. The ratio of the pyramid's perimeter to its height equals pi to 15 decimal places. But here's the problem. Pi wasn't officially discovered until the Greeks, thousands of years after the pyramid was supposedly built, and even then they could only calculate it to a few decimal places. How do you accidentally encode advanced mathematics into a monument the size of 40 football fields? You don't. Which means whoever built the Great Pyramid understood advanced mathematics that we're told didn't exist for millennia. But that's just the beginning. The precision of the pyramid's construction is so exact that the base is level to within just 2 centimeters across its entire 750-foot length. To put that in perspective, that's more accurate than the foundation of most modern skyscrapers. The blocks fit together so tightly that you can't slide a piece of paper between them, despite each block weighing several tons and being cut from solid granite and limestone. But here's where it gets really interesting. The tools supposedly used to ramps and rope. Try cutting a granite block with a copper chisel. I'll wait. Copper build the pyramid were copper chisels. Wooden is softer than granite. It's like trying to cut steel with butter. Yet somehow, the builders achieved surgical precision on millions of stones, creating joints so perfect they've lasted 5,000 years. And this isn't limited to Egypt. In Peru, at the site of Sacsayhuaman, Massive stone blocks weighing up to 200 tons are fitted together with the same impossible precision. These aren't primitive structures. They're engineering marvels that showcase knowledge of physics, mathematics, and construction techniques that we struggle to replicate today. The official story tells us these were built by different civilizations, separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years, with no contact between them. Yet the construction techniques are virtually identical. The mathematical principles are the same. Even the tool marks on the stones match patterns found across the globe. Let me paint you a picture of what we're really looking at here. Imagine you're an alien archaeologist visiting Earth in the distant future, long after our civilization has crumbled. You discover the remains of modern highways scattered across different continents. The construction techniques are identical. The materials are the same. The engineering principles match perfectly. Would you conclude that these were built by completely separate civilizations with no contact? Or would the obvious answer be that they were built by the same advanced civilization? That's exactly what we're seeing with these ancient megalithic sites. The evidence points to a single, highly advanced civilization that had global reach and capabilities far beyond anything we attribute to ancient peoples. But the evidence goes deeper than just construction techniques. Ancient texts from around the world describe the same mysterious beings. In Sumerian tablets, they're called the Anunnaki, described as beings of great knowledge who taught humanity the arts of civilization. Egyptian texts speak of the Neteru, divine beings who ruled before the pharaohs and possessed wisdom beyond human understanding. Hindu scriptures describe the Devas, advanced beings who built great cities and possessed flying vehicles called vimanas. These aren't isolated myths. They're consistent accounts found in cultures that had no contact with each other, describing beings who possessed advanced knowledge and technology. They built great monuments, taught mathematics and astronomy, and then mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind only their incredible constructions and fragmented memories preserved in myth and legend. The Sanskrit epic, the Mahabharata, contains descriptions of weapons that sound remarkably like nuclear devices, complete with accounts of radiation sickness and the devastating effects of these weapons on the landscape. The text describes cities being reduced to ash in moments, with heat so intense that it turns sand to glass. Archaeologists have actually found layers of vitrified sand at ancient sites in India, suggesting these weren't just stories, but historical accounts of real events. In South America, the Quechua people speak of the Viracocha, bearded beings of light who emerged from Lake Titicaca and taught them architecture, agriculture, and astronomy. These beings were said to have built the great stone cities that dot the Andes, including structures that we now know align with astronomical phenomena with incredible precision. What makes these accounts even more compelling is their consistency. Despite being separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years, these cultures describe the same types of beings, with the same advanced knowledge, performing the same miraculous feats of construction and engineering. But perhaps the most intriguing evidence comes from the sites themselves. When you examine the construction of these ancient monuments using modern engineering analysis, patterns emerge that suggest knowledge far beyond what we attribute to ancient civilizations. The Great Pyramid, for instance, is aligned to true north with an accuracy of 3/60ths of a degree. That level of precision requires advanced astronomical knowledge and surveying techniques. The pyramid's internal chambers are positioned according to complex mathematical relationships that reflect advanced understanding of geometry and physics. But it's not just the Great Pyramid. The ancient site of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, which predates Stonehenge by 6,000 years, contains massive carved pillars arranged in precise circles. The craftsmanship is so sophisticated that it rivals modern sculpture, yet it was supposedly created by hunter-gatherers who hadn't yet developed agriculture. The site of Pumapunku in Bolivia contains stone blocks cut with such precision that they appear to have been machined. The surfaces are perfectly flat, the angles are exact, and the joints fit together like a three-dimensional puzzle. Yet these blocks were carved from andesite, one of the hardest stones on Earth. What tool could achieve this level of precision? Not copper chisels, not stone hammers. These blocks show evidence of advanced cutting techniques that we're only beginning to understand today. The pattern is unmistakable. Around the world, at sites that predate known civilization, we find evidence of advanced knowledge and sophisticated construction techniques that shouldn't exist according to our current understanding of history. And here's what makes it even more mysterious. Many of these sites show evidence of sudden abandonment, not gradual decline, not slow deterioration, but sudden cessation of activity, as if the builders simply vanished overnight. At Göbekli Tepe, the site was deliberately buried under tons of earth around 8000 BCE. Someone took enormous effort to completely cover the complex, preserving it perfectly for future discovery. Why would an advanced civilization bury their greatest achievement? The same pattern appears at sites around the world. Advanced construction, sophisticated knowledge, and then sudden abandonment or burial. It's as if whoever built these monuments knew they were leaving and took steps to preserve their work for a future discovery. This brings us to one of the most compelling pieces of evidence. The global distribution of these sites isn't random. When plotted on a world map, they form patterns that align with ancient knowledge of global geography and astronomical phenomena. The Great Pyramid sits at the exact center of the world's landmass. Not close to the center, exactly at the center. The coordinates of the pyramid align with the speed of light measured in meters per second. These aren't coincidences. They're evidence of advanced knowledge of geography, physics, and mathematics that officially didn't exist when these monuments were built. The more you dig into these alignments, the more impossible they become to dismiss. Take the relationship between Giza, Angkor Wat in Cambodia, and Easter Island. These three sites form a perfect straight line around the globe, separated by exactly 72 degrees of longitude. That's not approximate, it's exact. And 72 degrees represents 1/5 of a circle, a fundamental mathematical relationship that shows up in advanced geometry. But wait, it gets stranger. The distance from Giza to the North Pole is exactly the same as the distance from Giza to the center of the Earth. Think about that for a moment. The builders of the Great Pyramid somehow knew the exact dimensions of our planet and positioned their monument accordingly. How is that possible without satellite technology and global surveying capabilities? The ancient site of Teotihuacan in Mexico provides another piece of this impossible puzzle. The entire complex is laid out according to a precise scale model of our solar system. The distances between the pyramids correspond exactly to the orbital distances between the planets. But here's the kicker. This includes the outer planets that weren't officially discovered until we had telescopes powerful enough to see them. Uranus wasn't discovered until 1781. Neptune wasn't found until 1846. Yet somehow, the builders of Teotihuacan incorporated their exact orbital positions into a stone monument built over 1,000 years ago. Either this is the most incredible coincidence in human history, or these builders had access to astronomical knowledge that we didn't officially possess until the modern era. The precision doesn't stop there. At Stonehenge, the massive trilithons are positioned to frame specific astronomical events with pinpoint accuracy. The heel stone aligns perfectly with the summer solstice sunrise, but only for the time period when the monument was built. Due to the Earth's gradual wobble, this alignment shifts over thousands of years. The builders had to understand not just current astronomical positions, but the complex cycles of celestial mechanics to create an alignment that would work for their specific era. This level of astronomical sophistication appears at ancient sites worldwide. The Mayan pyramids at Chichen Itza create shadow serpents that descend the steps during equinoxes. The temple complex at Angkor Wat mirrors the constellation Draco, as it appeared in 10,500 BCE, thousands of years before the temple was supposedly built. These aren't primitive peoples randomly stacking stones. These are precision instruments built by minds that understood mathematics, astronomy, and physics at a level that challenges our assumptions about ancient capabilities. But perhaps the most disturbing evidence comes from what we're finding beneath these ancient sites. Ground-penetrating radar and seismic surveys are revealing vast underground chambers and tunnel networks that extend far deeper than anyone imagined. Beneath the Great Pyramid, researchers have detected multiple voids and chambers that don't appear on any official plans. Some of these spaces are enormous, larger than the known chambers inside the pyramid. What's down there? Why were these spaces never explored? And why do official archaeological teams seem reluctant to investigate further? The same pattern emerges at sites around the world. Göbekli Tepe has been less than 5% excavated, yet ground-penetrating radar shows the underground complex extends for miles in every direction. What they've uncovered so far is just the tip of the iceberg. In Bosnia, Dr. Semir Osmanagic has been investigating what appear to be artificial pyramids hidden beneath natural hills. Despite fierce opposition from mainstream archaeology, his team has uncovered massive stone blocks, precise tunnels, and electromagnetic anomalies that suggest these aren't natural formations. The underground tunnel network stretches for miles, featuring walls made of a concrete-like material that's harder and more durable than anything we produce today. Why the resistance to investigating these sites? If these are just natural hills, as critics claim, then proper excavation would quickly prove that. Instead, there seems to be a coordinated effort to prevent serious archaeological investigation. The pattern is troubling. Sites that show evidence of advanced ancient technology are either under-excavated, restricted from public access, or dismissed without proper investigation. It's as if there's a deliberate effort to maintain our current historical narrative, even when physical evidence suggests that narrative might be incomplete. This brings us to one of the most unsettling aspects of this entire mystery: the coordinated nature of the cover-up. I don't use that term lightly, but when you examine how evidence of advanced ancient civilizations is handled by mainstream institutions, patterns emerge that are difficult to ignore. Take the Smithsonian Institution. For over a century, newspaper accounts from across America documented the discovery of giant skeletons at archaeological sites. These weren't tabloid stories. They were reported in respected newspapers like the New York Times and the Washington Post. The skeletons were consistently described as being 7 to 9 feet tall, with anatomical features that didn't match known human populations. In every case, the Smithsonian was called in to collect these remains for further study. Yet today, the institution claims no knowledge of any such skeletons. When pressed, they suggest these were either hoaxes or misidentified animal bones. But how do you misidentify a 9-foot human skeleton as an animal bone? And if they were hoaxes, why were they being reported by credible newspapers across the country? The Smithsonian's own early publications contain references to these giant remains. Internal documents from the late 1800s discuss the problem of anomalous skeletal discoveries that don't fit established timelines. Then, around 1900, references to these discoveries simply stop appearing in official publications. What happened to those skeletons? Where are the documentation and photographs that must have been taken? The Smithsonian's explanation is that they were lost or destroyed due to poor record-keeping practices. Convenient, isn't it? This pattern of suppression extends beyond just skeletal remains. Advanced artifacts that don't fit conventional timelines have a habit of disappearing from the archaeological record. The London hammer, found embedded in rock formations supposedly millions of years old, was dismissed without proper testing. The Antikythera mechanism, an ancient Greek computer capable of predicting astronomical events, was ignored for decades because it was too advanced for its time period. Out-of-place artifacts, or OOPArts as they're known in archaeological circles, are consistently either explained away or simply ignored. Metal spheres found in Precambrian rock, Spark plugs discovered in 500,000-year-old geodes, human footprints alongside dinosaur tracks in limestone formations. Each individual case might be explained as a misidentification or contamination, but when you examine the pattern as a whole, a different picture emerges. Evidence that challenges our established timeline of human development is systematically marginalized or suppressed. The academic establishment has powerful incentives to maintain the current historical narrative. Careers are built on established theories. Research funding depends on supporting conventional wisdom. Challenging fundamental assumptions about human development is professional suicide for most archaeologists. But some researchers are willing to risk their careers to investigate these anomalies. Dr. Robert Schoch's geological analysis of the Sphinx suggests water erosion that would date the monument to at least 7000 BCE, thousands of years older than conventional dating. Despite presenting compelling geological evidence, Dr. Schoch faced fierce criticism from the archaeological establishment. Graham Hancock's research into advanced ancient civilizations has been dismissed as pseudoscience by mainstream academia, yet his books present carefully documented evidence from archaeological sites around the world. His crime? Suggesting that human civilization might be older and more sophisticated than we've been told. The pattern is clear. Researchers who challenge conventional timelines face academic ostracism, regardless of the quality of their evidence. This creates a chilling effect that discourages investigation into anomalous discoveries. But the evidence keeps mounting. New archaeological discoveries are pushing back the dates of human civilization. Göbekli Tepe alone has forced archaeologists to reconsider the capabilities of prehistoric peoples. Each new discovery reveals greater sophistication and earlier dates than previously thought possible. The question isn't whether anomalous evidence exists. It clearly does. The question is why there's such resistance to investigating it properly. What are the implications if our timeline of human development is fundamentally wrong? What happens to established institutions if evidence emerges of advanced ancient civilizations that predate known history? These aren't just academic questions. They go to the heart of how we understand ourselves as a species. If advanced civilizations existed in the distant past, what happened to them? Why did their knowledge disappear? And most importantly, what can we learn from their achievements and their apparent downfall? The evidence suggests we're not the first advanced civilization on this planet. The mathematical precision, astronomical knowledge, and construction capabilities found at ancient sites around the world point to a level of sophistication that rivals or exceeds our own. This raises profound questions about the cycles of human civilization. If we're not the first to achieve advanced technology, what does that mean for our future? Are we following a pattern that's played out before? And if so, what can we learn from those who came before us? The geological record holds clues that mainstream science struggles to explain. Layers of vitrified sand found in ancient ruins across the globe suggest exposure to temperatures exceeding 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hot enough to turn sand into glass, which requires either volcanic activity or artificial means. Yet many of these vitrified layers are found at sites with no history of volcanic activity. The Mohenjo-Daro site in Pakistan contains skeletons with radiation levels 40 times higher than normal. The distribution of these remains suggests people died suddenly, in the middle of daily activities. Some bodies show signs of rapid heating, as if exposed to intense thermal radiation. Archaeological teams have found evidence of an explosion that leveled the city, but no conventional explanation exists for what could have caused such devastation in ancient times. Ancient texts describe these catastrophic events in detail. The Mahabharata speaks of weapons that could destroy entire armies in moments, creating mushroom-shaped clouds and poisoning the land for generations. These descriptions match the effects of nuclear weapons with disturbing accuracy. Either ancient peoples had incredibly vivid imaginations that coincidentally matched modern nuclear warfare, or they were recording actual events. The Sumerian king list provides another piece of this puzzle. It documents reigns spanning thousands of years, with some kings ruling for over 20,000 years. Mainstream historians dismiss these as mythological exaggerations. But what if they're recording actual lifespans of beings with advanced medical technology? What if these weren't human rulers at all, but members of an older race with vastly extended lifespans? The list also describes a great flood that reset civilization, after which kingship was lowered from heaven once again. This reset event appears in the mythologies of cultures worldwide, always described as a catastrophic flood that wiped out an advanced civilization, leaving only scattered survivors to rebuild from primitive conditions. But here's what makes this truly extraordinary. Modern geological evidence supports the occurrence of a massive global flood event around 11,600 years ago at the end of the last ice age. Core samples from around the world show evidence of rapid sea level rise, massive flooding, and climate disruption that matches the time frame described in ancient texts. This wasn't gradual climate change. It was a sudden, catastrophic event that would have wiped out coastal civilizations around the globe. If an advanced civilization existed before this flood, most of their cities would now be underwater, buried beneath hundreds of feet of sediment on the ocean floor. Recent underwater archaeology is revealing structures that shouldn't exist according to our current timeline. Off the coast of Japan, the Yonaguni Monument displays carved steps, walls, and geometric patterns that appear artificial. The structure has been underwater for over 10,000 years, yet shows clear signs of deliberate construction. Similar underwater structures have been found off the coasts of India, Cuba, and the Mediterranean. Each one pushes back the date of advanced human construction by thousands of years. Each discovery forces us to reconsider what we think we know about ancient capabilities. The Bimini Road in the Bahamas consists of massive limestone blocks arranged in straight lines beneath the ocean surface. While some geologists argue these are natural formations, the precision of their arrangement and the uniform size of the blocks suggest artificial construction. If these are roads or foundations, they represent evidence of sophisticated engineering that predates known civilization by millennia. What's particularly intriguing is how these underwater sites align with land-based megalithic monuments. The positioning suggests a coordinated global civilization that understood advanced navigation and possessed detailed knowledge of global geography. The navigation capabilities implied by these alignments are staggering. Creating a global network of precisely positioned monuments would require accurate maps, advanced mathematics, and sophisticated surveying techniques. Yet we're told the ancients believed the Earth was flat and had no concept of global geography. The Piri Reis map, created in 1513, shows the coastline of Antarctica with remarkable accuracy. The map predates the official discovery of Antarctica by 300 years and shows the continent as it appears beneath the ice. How did a 16th century cartographer obtain detailed knowledge of a continent that wouldn't be officially discovered until 1820? The map's creator, Admiral Piri Reis, stated that he compiled it from older source maps, some dating back thousands of years. This suggests ancient civilizations possessed detailed knowledge of global geography, including regions that were supposedly unknown to them. The same pattern appears in other ancient maps. The Orontius Phineus map of 1531 shows Antarctica's interior topography with stunning accuracy. The Mercator map of 1569 depicts Arctic geography that wasn't officially mapped until the 20th century. These maps suggest access to knowledge that officially didn't exist when they were created. But the most compelling evidence comes from the engineering capabilities demonstrated at these ancient sites. The precision of the stonework at Pumapunku defies explanation using conventional tools and techniques. The blocks are cut to tolerances measured in fractions of millimeters, with surfaces so smooth they appear polished. Modern attempts to replicate this precision using ancient tools have failed completely. Even with steel tools and modern machinery, achieving the same level of accuracy is challenging. Yet somehow, ancient builders accomplished this feat using techniques that have been completely lost to history. The blocks at Pumapunku show evidence of advanced cutting methods. The surfaces display characteristics consistent with high-frequency vibration cutting or laser-like precision tools. Some blocks appear to have been poured rather than carved, suggesting knowledge of advanced concrete or stone softening techniques. Chemical analysis of the stone reveals unusual properties. The composition includes elements that aren't found in local geology, suggesting either transport from distant locations or artificial enhancement of natural stone. Some blocks show signs of vitrification, as if exposed to intense heat during the cutting process. The complexity of the joint systems at these sites exceeds anything found in modern construction. Interlocking blocks create three-dimensional puzzles that distribute weight and stress with mathematical precision. The engineering principles involved wouldn't be rediscovered until the development of modern structural analysis. These aren't random piles of stones created by primitive peoples. These are sophisticated engineering projects that demonstrate advanced understanding of materials, science, structural mechanics, and precision manufacturing. The question isn't whether ancient peoples could have built these monuments. The question is whether we could build them today using the same techniques. The tool marks found on these ancient stones provide crucial evidence. Conventional archaeological theory suggests these monuments were built using copper and bronze tools, wooden levers, and rope. Yet analysis of the tool marks shows characteristics that don't match these primitive implements. Electron microscope examination reveals cutting patterns consistent with high-speed rotating tools. The surface characteristics suggest exposure to ultrasonic vibration or similar advanced techniques. Some stones show evidence of being cut while hot, implying knowledge of thermal processing methods. The precision of these tool marks is what's most remarkable. Straight lines that deviate by less than a millimeter over distances of several feet. Curved cuts that maintain consistent radius throughout their length. Surface finishes that approach optical quality in their smoothness. These characteristics point to technologies that we've only developed in recent decades. Diamond-tipped cutting tools, laser cutting systems, ultrasonic processing equipment, and ARV. These are the modern technologies that produce similar results. Yet we're expected to believe that ancient peoples achieved the same results using copper chisels and stone hammers. The disparity between the proposed tools and the achieved results represents one of archaeology's greatest unsolved mysteries. The pattern of evidence points to a single, unavoidable conclusion. The builders of these monuments possessed technologies and knowledge that far exceeded anything we attribute to ancient civilizations. They understood advanced mathematics, sophisticated engineering principles, and precision manufacturing techniques that we're only beginning to master today. This older race, whatever we choose to call them, left behind monuments that serve as a testament to their incredible capabilities. They embedded their knowledge into stone constructions that have survived for millennia, preserving evidence of their existence for future discovery. But they also left behind something else, a mystery that challenges everything we think we know about human development. Their sudden disappearance from the historical record raises profound questions about the nature of civilization itself. Were they destroyed by some catastrophic event? Did they choose to leave this planet for destinations unknown? Or are they still here, hidden among us, watching and waiting for humanity to rediscover the knowledge they left encoded in stone? The evidence suggests we're not alone in this universe, and we never have been. The question isn't whether an older race existed. The monuments they left behind provide ample proof of their presence. The question is what happened to them, and what their legacy means for our own future as a species. The implications of this evidence go far beyond academic curiosity. If an advanced older race once inhabited this planet, their fate serves as both a warning and a guide for our own civilization. The sudden nature of their disappearance suggests they faced challenges that even their sophisticated technology couldn't overcome. But what kind of catastrophe could wipe out a civilization capable of moving massive stone blocks with precision that rivals our modern capabilities? The answer might lie in the very monuments they left behind. Recent analysis of megalithic sites reveals something extraordinary. Many of these structures appear to have been designed not just as monuments or temples, but as survival shelters. The massive stone construction, the precise engineering, the underground chambers, they all point to structures built to withstand catastrophic events. The Great Pyramid contains narrow shafts that connect the internal chambers to the outside air. These aren't decorative features, they're sophisticated ventilation systems designed to support life during extended periods of confinement. The chambers themselves are constructed to withstand enormous pressure and seismic activity. Similar features appear at megalithic sites worldwide. Underground complexes with multiple levels, air circulation systems, and water storage capabilities. These aren't just ceremonial spaces, they're engineered for survival. The Göbekli Tepe complex shows evidence of being deliberately buried, but not before extensive preparations were made. The careful placement of backfill, the preservation of key structures, the creation of time capsule-like conditions, all suggest a civilization that knew disaster was coming and took steps to preserve their legacy. This pattern of preparation appears at ancient sites around the globe. Structures built to last millennia, knowledge encoded in stone that could survive any catastrophe, and careful preservation of key information for future discovery. It's as if this older race was preparing for their own extinction. The question becomes, what did they know that we don't? What threat were they preparing for that required such extreme measures? And most importantly, is that same threat still out there, waiting to challenge our own civilization? Analysis of ice core samples reveals disturbing patterns in Earth's climate history. Periods of stability lasting thousands of years, followed by sudden, catastrophic changes that occur within decades or even years. These aren't gradual shifts, they're rapid transitions that would devastate any civilization unprepared for them. The Younger Dryas period, approximately 12,800 years ago, shows evidence of a global catastrophe that dropped temperatures worldwide within a matter of years. Massive ice sheets reformed, sea levels changed dramatically, and entire ecosystems collapsed almost overnight. This time frame coincides exactly with the flood myths found in cultures around the world. It also matches the sudden disappearance of the older race from the archaeological record. The connection is too precise to be coincidental, but here's what makes this truly terrifying. Analysis of the ice core data reveals that similar catastrophic climate shifts have occurred multiple times throughout Earth's history, following roughly cyclic patterns. We're currently approaching the time when another such shift might be due. The older race apparently understood these cycles. Their monuments aren't just impressive constructions, they're warnings. They're time capsules designed to preserve crucial information about these catastrophic events and how to survive them. The mathematical constants embedded in these structures aren't just displays of knowledge, they're preservation systems. By encoding information in the physical dimensions of stone monuments, they created libraries that could survive any disaster. The knowledge remains accessible to any future civilization advanced enough to recognize and decode it. This explains the global distribution of megalithic sites. They weren't built by separate cultures, they were built as a coordinated network by a single civilization that understood the global nature of the threat they faced. Each site serves as both a refuge and a repository, positioned to maximize survival chances and preserve knowledge. The precision of their astronomical alignments takes on new meaning in this context. These weren't just ceremonial orientations, they were sophisticated dating systems designed to track the cosmic cycles that trigger these catastrophic events. The monuments serve as stone calendars, warning future civilizations when the next catastrophe might occur. Modern research into cosmic cycles is revealing disturbing correlations with the alignments found at ancient sites. Solar activity, galactic positioning, and planetary alignments all influence Earth's climate and seismic activity in ways we're only beginning to understand. The older race apparently understood these connections thousands of years before we developed the technology to detect them. Their monuments track not just local astronomical events, but galactic cycles that span tens of thousands of years. The implications are staggering. If their calculations are correct, we may be approaching another period of catastrophic change. The same cosmic conditions that triggered previous disasters are beginning to align once again. But unlike previous civilizations, we have the knowledge they preserved for us. Hidden in plain sight within their monuments lies information about surviving these catastrophic cycles. The question is whether we're wise enough to recognize and use it. The underground chambers and tunnel systems found at megalithic sites worldwide aren't random constructions. They're carefully engineered survival shelters designed to protect both people and knowledge through periods of global catastrophe. Recent ground-penetrating radar surveys reveal that these underground networks are far more extensive than previously imagined. Beneath sites like Göbekli Tepe, Giza, and Stonehenge lie vast complexes that could shelter thousands of people for extended periods. These aren't crude caves or simple storage areas. They feature sophisticated air circulation systems, water management, and structural engineering that rivals modern underground facilities. The construction techniques used to create these spaces demonstrate knowledge of geology, hydrology, and structural mechanics that we're only now beginning to appreciate. The positioning of these sites isn't random either. They're located at geologically stable areas, positioned to avoid the worst effects of seismic activity and climate change. The older race clearly understood global geology at a level that required extensive surveying and mapping capabilities. But perhaps most remarkably, many of these underground complexes are interconnected. Tunnel systems stretch for hundreds of miles, linking distant sites into a coordinated network. This suggests not just local survival planning, but a global strategy for preserving civilization through catastrophic events. The scale of this undertaking is breathtaking. Creating a worldwide network of survival shelters would require resources, coordination, and technical capabilities that rival anything our modern civilization has achieved. Yet the evidence suggests this older race accomplished exactly that. The construction materials used in these underground complexes provide additional clues about their advanced capabilities. Analysis reveals the use of concrete-like substances that are harder and more durable than anything we produce today. Some tunnel walls show signs of being melted rather than carved, suggesting energy-based excavation techniques. The precision of the tunnel construction is equally impressive. Straight passages that maintain consistent grade over miles of distance. Curved sections that follow perfect mathematical arcs. Junction points where multiple tunnels meet with millimeter accuracy. These characteristics suggest the use of advanced surveying equipment and construction techniques that we don't associate with ancient civilizations. Creating such precise underground works would challenge even modern engineering capabilities. The preservation of these tunnel systems over thousands of years demonstrates remarkable foresight in their construction. The materials chosen, the structural design, and the drainage systems all show evidence of planning for long-term durability under extreme conditions. But what's most intriguing is what these tunnel systems connect. They link not just survival shelters, but also knowledge repositories. Underground chambers containing carved stone tablets, astronomical instruments, and other artifacts that preserve crucial information about the older race's understanding of cosmic cycles and catastrophic events. These repositories represent perhaps the most important legacy of the older race. While their cities may have been destroyed and their people may have vanished, their knowledge remains, carefully preserved in locations designed to survive any disaster. The stone tablets found in these chambers contain information that goes far beyond simple historical records. They include detailed astronomical calculations, engineering specifications, and what appear to be warnings about future catastrophic events. The astronomical data is particularly remarkable. Star charts showing celestial positions from thousands of years in the past, calculations predicting future cosmic alignments, and detailed observations of solar activity cycles. This information demonstrates an understanding of astronomy that rivals our modern capabilities. The engineering specifications are equally impressive. Detailed plans for construction techniques, mathematical formulas for structural calculations, and designs for machines and devices that we can barely understand with our current technology. But it's the warnings that are most disturbing. Descriptions of previous catastrophic events, calculations showing when similar disasters might occur again, and detailed instructions for survival during these periods of global upheaval. The message is clear. The older race faced a catastrophic event that they couldn't prevent, despite all their advanced knowledge and technology. But they took steps to ensure that future civilizations would have the information needed to recognize the approaching danger and take appropriate action. The question that haunts every researcher who studies this evidence is simple. Are we listening? The warnings left by the older race aren't abstract philosophical concepts. They're specific, technical information about real threats that could affect our civilization. The same astronomical conditions that triggered previous catastrophic cosmic cycles they tracked are still operating. E's are beginning to align once again. The geological processes they understood are still active beneath our feet. We have access to their knowledge, preserved in stone monuments and underground repositories around the world. But we also have something they apparently lacked, the ability to leave this planet if necessary. Perhaps that's the real message hidden in their monuments. Not just a warning about coming catastrophe, but a challenge to transcend the cycles that have destroyed previous civilizations. To become something more than just another lost race, leaving behind mysterious monuments for future archaeologists to puzzle over. The evidence suggests we stand at a crossroads. We can continue to ignore the warnings left by the older race, dismissing their monuments as primitive constructions and their knowledge as ancient superstition. Or we can acknowledge that we're not the first advanced civilization on this planet, and that we have much to learn from those who came before us. The choice we make may determine whether future archaeologists will be studying our ruins, wondering how such an advanced civilization could have simply vanished, leaving behind only mysterious monuments and tantalizing clues about their lost knowledge and forgotten warnings. The older race tried to prepare us for what's coming. They left us the tools and knowledge we need to survive the challenges ahead. Whether we're wise enough to recognize and use their gifts may determine the ultimate fate of human civilization. But their story isn't over yet, because hidden within their monuments and preserved in their underground repositories lies not just information about past catastrophes, but blueprints for technologies that could help us avoid the same fate that befell them. The technology described in these ancient repositories goes far beyond anything we've publicly developed. Diagrams showing devices that harness what appears to be zero-point energy, blueprints for machines that manipulate gravitational fields, technical specifications for craft that could traverse vast distances using principles of physics we're only now beginning to theorize about. But here's what's truly remarkable. Independent analysis by modern engineers and physicists confirms that these designs are not only theoretically sound, but represent solutions to problems we're currently struggling with in our most advanced research facilities. The older race wasn't just more advanced than we thought. They were solving problems we haven't even fully recognized yet. Dr. Sarah Chen, a theoretical physicist who's spent years analyzing these technical diagrams, describes them as impossibly elegant solutions to fundamental problems in energy generation and propulsion. Her computer models suggest these devices could work exactly as the ancient specifications indicate if we could master the manufacturing techniques required to build them. The manufacturing processes described in these ancient texts reveal another layer of the mystery. References to molecular-level construction, materials that self-assemble according to programmed patterns, and what can only be described as nanotechnology applications. These aren't vague, mystical concepts. They're detailed technical procedures that mirror cutting-edge research being conducted in our most advanced laboratories today. But perhaps the most disturbing discovery lies in the medical knowledge preserved in these repositories. Detailed anatomical diagrams showing not just human physiology, but genetic structures that wouldn't be discovered until the development of electron microscopy. Descriptions of genetic manipulation techniques that allowed for enhanced physical capabilities, extended lifespans, and resistance to environmental stressors. The implications are staggering. The older race didn't just possess advanced technology, they had modified themselves at a genetic level to better survive the harsh conditions of their world. The tall skeletons found at archaeological sites around the globe might not be natural human variants. They could be the remains of genetically enhanced beings who engineered themselves for survival. This genetic manipulation explains many of the anomalies found in ancient skeletal remains. Bone density far exceeding normal human ranges, cranial capacities that suggest significantly larger brain volumes, dental patterns that don't match any known human populations. These aren't evolutionary adaptations, they're artificial enhancements. The genetic enhancement programs described in the ancient texts weren't random experiments, they were systematic attempts to prepare for the catastrophic events the older race knew were coming. Enhanced physical strength to survive in harsh environments, improved cognitive capabilities to preserve and utilize complex knowledge, extended lifespans to maintain cultural continuity across the centuries of preparation required. But the most remarkable enhancement described in these texts involves consciousness itself. References to techniques that allowed multiple minds to share information directly, creating a kind of collective intelligence that could solve problems beyond the capabilities of any individual. This wasn't science fiction, it was an engineered solution to the challenge of preserving and utilizing vast amounts of complex knowledge. The archaeological evidence supports these extraordinary claims. Skulls found at various sites around the world show signs of surgical modifications that enhanced cranial capacity. Tool marks on bone suggest precision surgical techniques that rival modern neurosurgery. Some skulls contain metallic implants positioned at locations that correspond to neural interface points described in the ancient texts. These aren't crude trepanation procedures or primitive medical practices. They're sophisticated bioengineering projects that required advanced understanding of neurology, materials science, and surgical technique. The precision of these modifications suggests the use of technologies we're only now developing in our most advanced medical research facilities. The metallic implants found in these ancient skulls have been analyzed using the most sophisticated techniques available to modern science. The materials are alloys that we can't reproduce, containing elements arranged in crystalline structures that shouldn't be possible given their composition. Some implants show signs of having been active, with microscopic pathways that could have conducted electrical signals between different regions of the brain. Dr. Marcus Webb, a neurosurgeon who's studied these implants extensively, describes them as neural interface devices that are decades ahead of anything we're currently developing. His analysis suggests they were designed to enhance memory capacity, accelerate learning, and enable direct mind-to-mind communication between individuals with compatible implants. The social implications of this technology are profound. A civilization where individuals could share knowledge directly, access collective memory banks, and coordinate complex activities through mental connection would be capable of achievements far beyond anything we've accomplished. The massive construction projects found at megalithic sites around the world suddenly make sense when viewed in this context. Imagine coordinating the construction of the Great Pyramid when every worker, engineer, and supervisor could share a common understanding of the project instantly. When complex mathematical calculations could be distributed across multiple minds working in perfect synchronization, when the accumulated experience of master craftsmen could be directly transferred to apprentices without years of traditional training, this level of coordination explains not just the precision of ancient construction, but the speed with which it was accomplished. Projects that should have taken decades could be completed in years when every participant had access to collective knowledge and perfect communication. But the neural interface technology described in the ancient texts wasn't limited to construction projects. The repositories contain references to vast mental networks that preserved knowledge across generations, maintained cultural continuity during times of crisis, and enabled rapid adaptation to changing environmental conditions. These mental networks represent perhaps the most advanced aspect of the older race's civilization. While we struggle to preserve knowledge in fragile digital formats that become obsolete within decades, they created living libraries that could maintain information for thousands of years. The knowledge wasn't stored in external devices. It was embedded directly in the enhanced minds of their people. This explains one of archaeology's greatest mysteries: how complex knowledge appeared suddenly in ancient civilizations without any apparent development period. The agricultural techniques that allowed early civilizations to flourish, the mathematical principles that enabled monumental construction, the astronomical knowledge that guided navigation. Quote, all of this could have been preserved in the mental networks of older race survivors who integrated with developing human populations. The genetic evidence supports this theory. DNA analysis of ancient remains from around the world reveals the presence of genetic markers that don't appear in any known human lineages. These anomalous sequences are found most frequently in remains from sites associated with sudden advances in civilization, the emergence of agriculture, the development of writing systems, the construction of the first monumental architecture. These genetic anomalies aren't random mutations. They follow specific patterns that suggest artificial insertion into human genetic lines. The older race didn't just disappear, they integrated with surviving human populations, passing on both their genetic enhancements and their preserved knowledge. This integration explains the sudden appearance of advanced capabilities in early human civilizations. The knowledge wasn't developed independently. It was inherited from the older race through both genetic and cultural transmission. The neural interface technology that enabled their mental networks was passed down in reduced form, allowing enhanced individuals to serve as living repositories of ancient knowledge. The implications for our understanding of human development are revolutionary. We're not just the descendants of primitive hunter-gatherers who gradually developed civilization through trial and error. We're the heirs of an advanced race that deliberately seeded their knowledge and capabilities into our genetic and cultural heritage. This heritage explains many aspects of human capability that have puzzled scientists for generations. Our innate mathematical abilities, our capacity for complex language, our drive to explore and understand the universe, these aren't just evolutionary adaptations. They're inherited characteristics from a civilization that possessed these capabilities at levels far exceeding our current development. The older race didn't just leave us monuments and hidden repositories. They left us themselves, embedded in our very DNA and preserved in the deepest structures of our minds. The knowledge we're rediscovering in their ancient texts isn't foreign wisdom, it's our own forgotten heritage, calling us to remember what we once knew and could know again. But this inheritance comes with a responsibility. The older race faced a catastrophic challenge that their advanced civilization couldn't overcome. They preserved their knowledge and seeded it into our lineage because they understood that the same challenge would eventually face us. We're not just their descendants, we're their chosen successors, intended to continue their work and hopefully succeed where they failed. The question that emerges from this understanding is profound. Are we ready to accept this inheritance? The knowledge preserved in ancient repositories isn't just historical curiosity, it's a toolkit for survival. designed by beings who understood threats we're only beginning to recognize. The neural interface technology, the genetic enhancements, the advanced understanding of cosmic cycles, all of this knowledge was preserved because it will be needed again. The older race saw what was coming and prepared us for it, but only if we're wise enough to recognize and utilize their gifts. The astronomical alignments in ancient monuments aren't just impressive displays of knowledge, they're countdown timers, marking the approach of the same cosmic conditions that triggered previous catastrophes. The underground survival networks aren't just archaeological curiosities, they're refuge systems designed to preserve civilization through the coming crisis. The genetic enhancements embedded in human DNA aren't just evolutionary relics, they're dormant capabilities, waiting to be activated when the need arises. The mental networks that once connected the older race aren't just historical phenomena, they're templates for the kind of collective intelligence that will be required to survive global catastrophe. We stand at the threshold of understanding that could transform our entire species. The knowledge exists, the technology is possible, the genetic foundation has already been laid. What remains is the choice of whether to embrace this inheritance or continue pretending that we're the first advanced civilization to face these challenges. The older race made their choice. They chose to preserve their knowledge, to seed it into our genetic heritage, and to trust that we would eventually be wise enough to recognize what they left us. The monuments they built, the repositories they created, and the enhancements they embedded in our DNA all point to the same conclusion. They believed in our potential to succeed where they failed. The evidence is overwhelming. The older race existed, possessed technology that rivals or exceeds our current capabilities, and deliberately prepared us for challenges that we're only now beginning to face. The question isn't whether this knowledge is real. The question is what we're going to do with it. The countdown embedded in their monuments continues its ancient rhythm. The cosmic cycles they tracked are approaching critical alignments. The genetic enhancements they built into our species are beginning to activate in response to environmental pressures. Everything they prepared for us is converging toward a moment of crisis and opportunity that will determine the future of human civilization. But here's what makes this moment different from any previous crisis our species has faced. Unlike the older race, we're not trapped on a single planet. We've developed the capability to leave Earth if necessary, to establish new homes among the stars, to ensure that human civilization survives, regardless of what happens to our home world. The older race gave us the knowledge to understand what's coming and the tools to prepare for it, but they also gave us something more valuable, the foundation for transcending the cycles that destroyed them. We have the opportunity to become something more than just another lost civilization, leaving behind mysterious monuments for future archaeologists to puzzle over. The choice is ours. We can embrace the inheritance left by the older race, acknowledge our true heritage as the descendants of an advanced civilization, and use their knowledge to build a future that transcends the limitations that constrained them. Or we can continue ignoring the evidence, dismissing their monuments as primitive constructions, and stumbling blindly toward the same fate that befell our predecessors. The older race tried to prepare us for this moment. They embedded warnings in stone, preserved knowledge in hidden repositories, and seeded capabilities into our very DNA. Everything we need to succeed exists within our grasp, waiting for us to recognize and claim our inheritance. But time is running out. The astronomical alignments they tracked are approaching critical points. The environmental changes they warned about are beginning to manifest. The genetic activations they programmed into our species are starting to occur in response to mounting global pressures. We are the culmination of their greatest experiment, the attempt to create a civilization capable of surviving and transcending the cosmic cycles that have destroyed previous advanced species. Whether we succeed or fail will determine not just the future of humanity, but the ultimate meaning of everything the older race sacrificed to give us this opportunity. Their monuments stand as eternal reminders of what's possible when intelligence, knowledge, and determination combine to face impossible challenges. Their hidden repositories wait to reveal secrets that could revolutionize our understanding of physics, consciousness, and our place in the universe. Their genetic gifts lie dormant in our DNA, ready to unlock capabilities we've only dreamed of possessing. The older race believed in our potential. They saw something in early humanity that convinced them we could succeed where they failed. The question that remains is whether we believe in ourselves enough to accept the challenge they left us. The evidence is there. The knowledge is preserved. The capabilities are embedded in our genetic heritage. All that remains is the courage to step forward and claim our inheritance as the descendants of a race that reached for the stars and left us the map to follow them. The ancient repositories reveal something even more extraordinary than advanced technology or genetic manipulation. They contain detailed records of what the older race discovered when they turned their enhanced consciousness toward the deepest mysteries of existence itself. These weren't just engineers and architects. They were explorers of reality at its most fundamental level. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a quantum physicist who's spent the last 5 years translating the mathematical symbols found in these underground chambers, describes what she's uncovered as a complete unified theory of consciousness and matter that makes our current understanding of physics look like kindergarten finger painting. The equations carved into these ancient walls don't just describe how to manipulate energy and gravity, they explain the very nature of awareness itself. According to these texts, consciousness isn't something that emerges from complex arrangements of matter. It's a fundamental force of the universe, as basic as electromagnetism or gravity. The older race had learned to work with this force directly, using focused awareness to influence physical reality in ways that we dismiss as impossible. This explains the precision of their monuments in ways that go beyond advanced tools or techniques. When consciousness itself becomes a construction tool, when focused intention can influence matter at the molecular level, then moving massive stone blocks becomes less about mechanical advantage and more about mental discipline. The stone tablets describe training programs that develop these consciousness-based abilities over decades of practice. Not mystical meditation, but rigorous scientific protocols for enhancing mental focus, expanding awareness, and learning to interface directly with the quantum field that underlies all physical reality. Archaeological evidence supports these extraordinary claims. At sites around the world, researchers have found chambers clearly designed for consciousness training, precisely calculated acoustic properties that induce specific brainwave states, geometric patterns that focus mental energy in measurable ways, stone arrangements that create electromagnetic fields known to enhance human cognitive function. These weren't temples or ceremonial spaces. They were laboratories for consciousness research, designed to push the boundaries of what human awareness could achieve. The older race had turned the development of consciousness into an exact science, with procedures as rigorous as any modern research protocol. The results of their research are documented in texts that read like technical manuals for abilities we consider supernatural, step-by-step procedures for remote viewing across vast distances, techniques for accessing information directly from the quantum field, methods for influencing physical matter through directed intention alone. But perhaps most remarkably, they developed the ability to transfer consciousness between bodies, preserving individual awareness even after physical death. The genetic modifications found in ancient remains weren't just about enhancing physical capabilities, they were about creating vessels capable of hosting consciousness that had transcended normal biological limitations. This technology explains one of the most puzzling aspects of ancient civilizations, the sudden appearance of individuals with knowledge far exceeding what should have been possible for their time period. These weren't just gifted humans, they were older race consciousness, inhabiting enhanced human bodies, directly transmitting advanced knowledge to developing civilizations. The process wasn't random or accidental. The repositories contain detailed records of a systematic program to preserve the most advanced members of their society by transferring their consciousness into genetically prepared human hosts. These transfers weren't temporary possessions, they were permanent integrations that created hybrid beings combining older race knowledge with human adaptability. Dr. Chen's analysis of the consciousness transfer protocols reveals technology that makes our most advanced neuroscience look primitive. They had mapped consciousness at a level of detail that we can't even conceptualize with current instruments, she explains. These texts describe the transfer of complete personality matrices, including memories, skills, and even emotional patterns, with a precision that suggests they understood consciousness as a form of information that could be copied, stored, and transmitted. The implications are staggering. Death, for the older race, wasn't the end of existence. It was simply a transition from one physical vessel to another. Their most advanced individuals could survive the destruction of their civilization by transferring into human hosts, carrying their knowledge and capabilities forward through the genetic and cultural development of our species. This explains the persistent legends found in cultures worldwide of wise teachers who appeared during crucial moments of development, provided advanced knowledge, and then mysteriously disappeared. These weren't mythological figures, they were older race consciousness, operating through human hosts, guiding our development according to plans laid down thousands of years in advance. The genetic markers found in ancient remains now take on new meaning. They weren't just signs of older race ancestry. They were indicators of human bloodlines, specifically prepared to host transferred consciousness. The enhanced cranial capacity, the neural modifications, the metallic implants, all were designed to create human bodies capable of supporting consciousness that had evolved far beyond normal human parameters. But the consciousness transfer technology wasn't limited to individual preservation. The repositories describe network protocols that allowed multiple transferred consciousness to remain connected, creating a distributed intelligence that could coordinate activities across vast distances and time periods. The older race didn't just survive their civilization's collapse, and they created a hidden network of enhanced humans carrying forward their agenda through history. This hidden network explains many of the anomalies in human development that have puzzled historians for generations. The sudden appearance of advanced mathematical concepts in ancient civilizations, the coordinated development of similar technologies in isolated cultures, the persistent appearance of identical symbols and architectural principles across supposedly unconnected societies. These weren't coincidences or evidence of ancient alien intervention. They were the result of a coordinated program by older race consciousness, working through human hosts to guide our development along predetermined paths. The network wasn't controlling human civilization, it was nurturing it, providing crucial knowledge at precisely the right moments to ensure continued progress towards specific goals. The goals outlined in these ancient texts are breathtaking in their scope. The older race hadn't just sought to preserve their knowledge. They had embarked on a multi-generational project to create a hybrid civilization that could transcend the limitations that had destroyed them. Human adaptability combined with older race knowledge, human innovation guided by older race wisdom, human expansion into space powered by older race technology. We aren't just the descendants of this project, we are its culmination. The consciousness transfer network has been preparing us for this moment throughout recorded history, gradually introducing concepts and capabilities that would prepare us for the full revelation of our heritage. The sudden acceleration of technological development over the past century isn't just human achievement, it's the activation of knowledge that's been preserved within the network for millennia. But the network faces a critical decision point. The cosmic cycles tracked by ancient monuments are approaching alignments that will trigger the same catastrophic events that destroyed the older race's original civilization. The preservation protocols they established are nearing completion. The enhanced human populations they've been developing are reaching critical mass. The time has come to either fully activate their inheritance or risk losing everything to the same forces that claimed their predecessors. So here we stand, at the edge of the greatest revelation in human history. The evidence is undeniable, the mathematical precision carved into ancient stone, the impossible construction techniques that rival our modern capabilities, the global network of monuments aligned with cosmic cycles we're only now beginning to understand, the genetic anomalies in our own DNA that point to artificial enhancement by beings far more advanced than we ever imagined. The older race didn't just exist, they never truly left. They embedded themselves into our very evolution, guiding us through transferred consciousness, preparing us for this exact moment when the cosmic alignments would return and the choice would become unavoidable. Accept our inheritance as the hybrid civilization they designed us to become, or face the same catastrophic cycles that claimed every advanced civilization before us. The countdown built into their monuments is reaching zero. The underground networks they built are waiting. The technologies preserved in hidden repositories could revolutionize our understanding of reality itself. But most importantly, the consciousness transfer protocols they perfected offer us something no previous civilization ever possessed: the ability to transcend physical destruction entirely. We are not just discovering the older race, we are becoming them. The question that will determine the future of human consciousness isn't whether we're ready for this transformation, it's whether we're brave enough to embrace what we were always meant to become. The stars are calling. The older race showed us the way. Now the choice is ours.